Okay, so, all right. I've been kicked out of the office because there's lots of things going on in there, and I'm now in the playroom with awful lighting and a really, really, really large Batman hanging out behind me, and a small Matthew as well. Okay, so this week in AP Psychology, we did all thinking, which is part of cognition. So last week we did memory as a part of cognition, and this week we did thinking as a part of cognition. The chat box is live. You can say hello when you show up, just like I did. Remember to text me through either Remind, or you can write in the chat box if you have any questions, and I will be able to answer those things. Okay. I do want to change one thing real quick. Hold on. Yes, I will move it. Okay. So I was going to be outside today, and then the yard crew of door neighbors decided to just let me turn on all of the tools. So that's why I've been relocated to here. Anyway, this week we talked about algorithms, heuristics, things that help us problem solve, and things that are obstacles in our problem solving. And I'm going to start off with examples of heuristics. So we talked about representative heuristic and availability heuristic, and most people did pretty well on their examples of each. There's a few people that did representative for both, like their examples were basically both representative. And I think availability is probably the hardest one. So representative is basically, think of stereotypical responses where it's like you see, you see a kid and they look a certain way, and you'd be like, oh, that kid's a nerd. We kind of all have ideas of what that kid probably looks like. And that doesn't necessarily mean he is a nerd or smart or plays video games or all the things that, like the classic nerd looks like and acts like. Availability, though, is something where you make judgments that could be wrong. That's based on available memories, recent events, current events, things that you just were recently thinking about. And I wanted to share a story about availability heuristic that I forgot to share in the lecture the other day. I usually share in class, but I don't know. I just didn't. Okay. Can anyone guess? And there's a couple of you watching. Who's watching? Who's here? So I know who I'm talking to. Write in the chat box. Say hello. Come. Say hello. Hello, Regina. And there's one more, I'm assuming, or unless that person logged in and then was like, I'm out of here, which is, what's the point of logging in? It's not like I can take a role or anything. Okay. So Regina, here's this crazy story. Do you know the most traveled day in the United States, where there's the most people on the road, most people are traveling? Do you have any idea? It's not Christmas or Christmas Eve. A lot of people think that, but not everyone celebrates Christmas. But something that everyone basically celebrates. And it's Thanksgiving. It's the day before Thanksgiving is the most traveled day in the United States every single year. Airlines are always packed and roads are always packed, whatever. But there was one Thanksgiving Eve, I guess you could say, in particular, that had the most highway fatalities ever. And it was Thanksgiving Eve of 2001. Why do you think there was more car crashes and more highway fatalities that year in 2001 in Thanksgiving? Think about it. It's 9/11. 9/11 happened in September, and here it is November just a couple months afterwards. I mean, like recoveries are still kind of happening. I mean, no one was really recovered after like the first 24 hours, but like they're still searching. I mean, the fire is still burning. It's still heavily on the news. So no one wants to fly because of what's readily available on their mind, what's talked about all the time. No one wants to fly, which means all the families that have typically flown every year to grandma and grandpa's house or whatever, they decided to drive when they typically fly, which means they're in territory that they're maybe not familiar with, or maybe with road conditions that they're not familiar with. And there's just more people on the road if everyone chooses to drive instead of fly. And so you think they would avoid flying because they thought it was unsafe. But then that led to more highway crashes and more highway fatalities than any other day. And so it's when you make a judgment call based on recent events, but the judgment call could totally be wrong. In this case, it was wrong for a lot of people that crashed who would have been flying and probably would have been safe. Because if you're going to fly, probably the safest time is right after like a terrorist event like that, because people are more on the lookout and securities can be more I guess, intense. So that is an example of availability heuristic. It's one of my favorite examples of availability heuristic because it's something that we can all, well, there's fewer and fewer of us that can actually remember that. But I think it's all something that makes sense, but then it also backfired just to prove that heuristics are not always right. Okay. Anyway, are there any questions or comments, thoughts, ideas, or concerns about availability versus representative heuristics? Heuristics. Questions, comments, thoughts, ideas. I have another party fact about 9/11 if you want to hear it. So 9/11 happened obviously in September, and Christmas is right around the corner. Does anyone know what toy had record low sales, as in no one bought it, in December of 2001 because of availability heuristic, because of 9/11? Can anyone think of a toy that no one would want to buy right after 9/11? Not like planes or anything like that, but the game Jenga. You know, where you pull the sticks out and like the tower like gets really tall and then it crashes. Yeah, no one wanted to buy Jenga in December of 2001 because of availability heuristic, because what was readily on the mind, no one wanted. They made a judgment call of what toy to buy, and that right there, they chose not to buy the tower falling down, which totally makes sense, and it's really awful and sad, but that's availability heuristic for you. Okay. The next thing we talked about this week, besides availability heuristic, was, and representative heuristics, was there was algorithms. Technically, we talked about that before heuristics, but algorithms are step-by-step procedures. Think of directions to get somewhere. I usually give this example in class. Let's say that you are given you're given a list of ingredients that you need for a recipe. And one of the ingredients is horseradish. Not everyone knows what that is. An algorithm would mean, like, what's a step-by-step procedure that's going to guarantee that you find horseradish? You go down every single aisle in the grocery store and you look at every single thing. You don't ask someone, because that doesn't guarantee you an answer, but you look at every single thing in the store and eventually you will find horseradish. It might take forever, but you're going to go up and down every single aisle. A heuristic, though, would just be like, well, I know horseradish is not a cereal, so I'm going to avoid that aisle. I know horseradish isn't dog food, so I'm going to avoid that aisle. So that's a heuristic, and how that's different than an algorithm. Okay, so we also talked about terms like fixation and framing, and functional fixedness and mental set. Those of you that actually watched the lecture, which I'm now realizing it's fewer and fewer of you, because it's like 40 or 60 people have turned in their assignment. And I go look at the view count of the video and it's like 12. I'm like, oh God. So fun. But did you like my bike story? What was my bike story about? Anyone know what my bike story was about? What term was I talking about? There's a few of you on. So what was the bike story about? Oh, did y'all leave? Or did you just put me on and then walk away from your phone? Sad days. Sad days. You can always text me through Remind. Mental set. Yay, Regina. She's coming through. Yay, mental set. Mental set is using solutions that worked in the past when they've been working. So I'm going to give an example of maybe something that my son might be dealing with right now. We're doing some math practice every day. This teacher puts on Google Classroom. And lately they've been mostly addition problems. And addition with two numbers, like 27 plus 32, things like that. And all the way up to like 100 and stuff. But recently, the last assignment, she slipped in some subtraction numbers, and it was in the directions, but you know, kids, they don't read directions. But he got to the problem, and it was something like, if you have this many apples and then you sell so many, how many do you have left? And he had been doing addition. So instead of focusing on the fact that like apples were taken away, and it was talking about what did you have left, yo hot diggity dogs. That is correct. He did addition when he should have been doing subtraction because that had been working for him in the past and giving him right answers. And so even though that's not what this problem now calls for, it now calls for subtraction. He was still doing addition. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, well, he was like, this was working before. It was addition before. Hey, bud. And now it was subtraction. So that's mental set when you try solutions that worked in the past. Okay, here's another awful story about mental set. So there was, I think this was in the Korean War, and there were paratroopers jumping out of airplanes like they do. And this last paratrooper, the last jump of the day, he is a professional like paratrooper. He's jumped out of hundreds of planes and hundreds of times. And he knows what he's doing. He's a professional. So up in the air, they told him, hey, you're a professional. You can handle this. This is our last parachute left. And then we gotta like land. It's a left-handed one. And he's like, okay, cool. Left-handed one. Got it. So he put it on and he jumped out of the plane and he fell 3,000 feet straight down. He did not pull it. In the moment of stress, he was so I don't want to use a fixated. He had such a mental set of solutions that worked in the past was to pull the ripcord on the right because he's right-handed that he like constantly tried to do that. Kind of like my brakes. I just focused on doing the hand brakes and neglected the actual brakes. He was only focusing on pulling something that was on the right and neglected to move to the left. And so when they found his body, they said that the right side of his uniform was completely torn off. His hands had been clawing so much that they had reached to the rib bones that are right here. But on the left-hand side of his uniform, there was nothing like amiss. Like he hadn't even focused on this because he was so focused on muscle memory and things that had worked in the past that he completely neglected to pull the ripcord that was over here on the right-hand side. So moment of stress, I totally understand him. You just get fixated on something and the mental set is so strong and so set inside of you that you don't try anything else. Okay, I see like one person get in the video and then out and then back in and then back out. So like I'm just trying to figure out who that would be. Okay, so that was mental set. Confirmation bias. Let's talk about that. Things that confirm your own bias. Did anyone have any examples for that? I talked about like Republicans watching Fox and Democrats watching CNN and how they're only going to hear their own version of truth on the screen, and they're only going to it looks like it pays to be ambidextrous. It does, I'm telling you, because he would have been like, okay, I'm good. But no, he died. He passed away. So that's unfortunate. But you live and you learn. Sometimes though, YOLO. Anywho, did anyone have an example for confirmation bias? Things that look to confirm your own bias? Opens chat. He died. Yep. Okay. So, hey, Maddie, we're talking about confirmation bias, and I'm trying to see if anyone can give me an example really quick of confirmation bias, an example that I haven't said, something new, because sometimes, and this is what happens to me, sometimes I can only think of examples of the ones that I've said in class because of mental set, because that's an answer that's worked for me in the past, and I have a really hard time seeing it from a fresh perspective. I'm so fixated that I can't see things like an example or a situation from a fresh perspective. I can only give you my examples that I've given in class. So can anyone become unfixated and tell me a strong opinions like abortion? Yeah, good job, Maddie. Where you would go, whatever side you fall on, whether it's pro-choice or pro-life, that you would go to just the website that agrees with you and be like, look at these pictures of the fetus, or look at this picture of okay, what would a pro-life person would be like, look at this picture of the sad fetus, but a pro-choice person would be like, look at these stats on maybe crime or something because of this baby led to being a criminal or something. Anti-vaxxers, great example. They're going to go to, anti-vaxxers would go to like a non-reliable, non-medical website to get their facts proven correctly, while people that believe in vaccines would probably go to medically researched, like highly scientific background scientists to get their facts. Anyway, so great examples, kids. Love it. Try not to fall into the trap of confirmation bias, because then you just become more and more overconfident in the fact that you are right, and you are less and less likely to hear opposing views because you are so confident, because look at all the information that agrees with me. It's like, yeah, but you're searching only for that information. Yes, Gwen, that's why you should use .org websites and also .edu, because if you're looking for information, if it's .com means it's commercialized, meaning they're there for business, which means they're going to have some serious bias if it's, whatever. But if it's .org or .edu, then you're going to get some more unbiased. Of course, there's still going to be bias, but more likely you're going to get information without any skew to one way or the other. Okay. We talked about functional fixedness. Functional fixedness is about an item's function. It's about what it's supposed to do and not being able to look past it. Like I am looking, there's so many things around me. This is Matthew's desk. So I am in his drawer. Okay, so I found... I found this little tiny key. I know that it goes to his like journaly diary thing that he's never used, but I know I see this key. What besides unlocking locks can I use this key for? Prove to me that you do not have functional fixedness by coming up with examples of what I can do with this key. Here's the key in question. Key. So what can I do with this key besides open locks? I could scratch something. That's right. It's like, oh, I got this itch. Oh, yeah, that's right. What else? What else can I do? Gwen, good job. What else can I do? Probably melt it down for scrap metal, I guess. That's true. Not very much scrap metal, but you know what? When times are tough, I'll take it. I'll take it. What else? Like lottery tickets. Oh, yes, you can scratch a lottery ticket. Here I am scratching my scalp. But yes, you could like scratch off a lottery ticket. Thank you, Gwen. You could take the metal thing off like a gift card. Oh, like the back of a gift card. Yeah, you can scratch it. You can use it for a necklace. It does have a nice little hole here. I can have a really cool like punk I shop at Hot Topic necklace. You can use that as a screwdriver. Probably everyone else has like, it's like, oh, I can't find it. The screwdriver that I have is too big. Let me use this little tiny thing to open the remote or something. Maddie? I don't know what you're saying. Bookmark? Yes. Cute little bookmark. Ooh, maybe like a bookmark for like a book about a key. How cool. Like the Secret Garden and something like that. Question? You have a question? No. Okay. All right. I'm putting the key back so we don't lose it because it is small. And let's move on to the idea of framing. Love the concept of framing. How you pose an idea changes people's perspective of it. How you talk about something, how you mention it changes people's view. Okay, so does anyone know what 2% like milk? Like, what is the 2%? It's not 2% milk and the rest is like water. It's like 2% milk means 2% of something. Does anyone know what it is? Fat. Yes, 2% fat. Hold on, bud. It's 2% fat. Does anyone know, like as in 2% pure lard? What's whole? How much percentage of fat is whole? If they had to give it a percent, all the fat, over 50. Oh my God, it would be a solid block. If it was 50% fat, you would have to cut your milk and like slice. No, whole milk. I don't think it's just straight out of the cow. I don't think so. There's a lot of cleaning process that go with like producing milk, because milk, you're literally like squeezing an animal, like you're juicing a cow, like wring it out. And I mean, blood and pus and hair all comes out. So they got to clean it and whatever. It's 4, which now that you said 50, it seems like ridiculously small, but keep in mind, it's double that of 2%. Yes, it is the closest to the natural percentage you can find without having a cow, but they're not going to label it as double the fat. They're not going to put a 4 next to the 2%. They're going to use whole, because whole sounds complete. Complete sounds like healthy, like a whole balanced diet. It seems healthy, but 4% fat, which is double too, isn't. Like they would never say what. They would never say the percentage of it when it's double the next best thing, especially when it comes to fat. So yeah, that'd be bad. Okay. Do you have a question? Okay. Why do you keep saying that you have a question? Okay. Okay. You forgot what question? So, do you like my story? Did you like my story about Richard Thaler, the behavioral economist that like changed his grading scale? I'm really thinking about doing that. I can't, of course, I'm really bad at math, and he's like a Harvard professor, so he could probably do like 98 divided by 137 quickly in his head. I would need 5 calculators to figure that out. Okay, Matthew, if you need to grab this, go ahead. He's trying to grab Pikachu. There you go. Lego Pikachu. Okay, so he just changed how people viewed success and failure based on the percentages. The percentages are the same, but he made it out of 100, which everyone can do in their head because they've been doing that since they were in first grade, or they can do it out of 137, and it completely changes the student's perspective of how difficult his class was just by changing the grading scale, not by changing the grade, not by changing the types of questions he asked, but changing the grading scale. Love it, love it, love it. So framing is basically how they pose an idea that changes people's perspective. They use this a lot in internet commercials, like cell provider commercials, like AT&T and Verizon and things like that. They usually show like, here's a map of the United States, and it's like covered in red, and it's like, this is all the people that have access to the internet with Verizon, but with AT&T, it's like only half of the country is covered. Well, technically, that's a lie. They're using the way that they're saying is saying like where it's provided, but that doesn't necessarily mean where the internet is good or strong or people have constant access to it. It's just provided. Like, you can buy it, but maybe it's not going to work, or maybe it's too expensive, or maybe it's going to take, like my in-laws, they live at a place, it's very, very wooded. It's like, there's hundreds and hundreds of trees in their yard. Of course they've got a big yard, but they cannot get really good internet access because there's no clear like line of sight from the top of their roof to like to the sky. Like, they're for satellite and for just the internet, there's no clean like line of sight. Trees and branches are in the way. So it's provided there, but they can't get it. So just when they say like, here where it's provided, but then when they show it over here, they might say, this is where it's provided with, and then they'll change it. And then there's always like small font on the bottom that basically says, we're lying with framing. We're not telling you the whole truth. We're framing it in a way that makes us look better than the competitor. But of course, the competitor is going to have their own maps. They're going to say that they're better because they're also using framing as well. So you just have to be careful with the information, how it's posed, and how it changes your feelings about it, because it could be the truth, but how they're saying it could change your perspective, and it could be a lie based on how they're saying it. So you just have to be really careful. Okay. And then last but not least, let's talk about belief perseverance, which is continuing to believe something even though you've been proven wrong. Even though you've been proven wrong, you still believe it. So results may be exaggerated is my favorite. Yes. Gwen, I can't agree with you more. Okay, later. You can put that back later, please. Okay, so belief perseverance. Can anyone give me an example of belief perseverance when maybe you've been proven wrong, or maybe your parents have been proven wrong, or a friend of yours has been proven wrong, yet they still continue to believe it. They still continue to think a certain way. Anybody? I'm assuming that you're typing. Okay. My mom keeps trying to look for houses and we don't have money for a house. Oh, okay. Your mom and me need to go hang out because, I spend countless hours looking at HAR, which is like the real estate app, looking at $1 million homes, and I don't have $1 million. And it's more like she's trying to live a fantasy of like, oh, I'm, if I was shopping for houses, this is what I would like. So maybe, cut your mom a break. We're renting. Yeah. Okay. So, I would say more like this, more like she's like, hey, we can afford this. We can afford this. Yet, like, your lights have been turned off and your credit card has been denied, and the bank is like hanging out on the front porch, like, "Hello, ma'am." But she's all like, "We can afford to buy this Gucci, whatever." Then it'd be like, "You've been proven wrong. Look at all the proof." But if she's just looking online for houses, because I'm like her, I'm gonna give her a pass and say that that's not belief perseverance. That's just trying to live out a fantasy. It's kind of like why I spent like 30 minutes last night looking at different pink hair dyes and the different shades and what color goes best with my skin. Am I going to really dye my hair pink? Probably not. Do I want to? And in like a perfect life, would it work out perfectly and I would look fantastic? Yeah, it would. But I'm gonna give her a break. Okay, telling my mom fruits have been genetically altered and don't look the same 500 years ago. She says that's not true. No, that's totally true. Yeah, like the size of fruits have gotten way bigger than they typically should be, and the colors have changed. And yes, thinking, yeah, that is totally true. You can dye your hair pink because no school. True, but I'm 34, going to be 35. At what point is it just too late to be like, that ship has sailed? Because no one wants to be like, look at that close to 40 chick with pink hair. Who is she fooling? Oh my God, is she having a midlife crisis? I think so. So, I mean, I'm cool, but I'm not that cool. Okay, quarter life crisis. God, I hope so. Of course, with this corona, who knows? It might be like 3/4 life crisis. So, all right. Are there any comments, thoughts, ideas, or concerns? Your mom is 38 and she dyes the ends of her. I thought that too. Ends of hair purple. If I did like purple and pink, it would almost kind of look like feathers coming out of the bottom, which would kind of be really cool. But I don't know. So, questions, comments about psychology mainly? Any questions about psychology or thoughts about psychology? We have another, do you know Miss Wiley? I don't know. She works at the junior high. Does she have really short hair? She dyes the inside of her hair purple. How would you even do that? Just get a mohawk and dye it purple and pink. Just keep it the length. Just like have this almost like a comb over. Maybe. But it's not like you would, I don't know. We'll have to see. Okay, so no questions about psychology. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay, well, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna make myself another cup of coffee, and I'm going to get ready for economics because I have a feeling there's going to be lots of people, hopefully more than 6, on the actual thing because we did math this week. The inside is like under half, so you can see like as in like part here, and then this bottom part would be pink, and so then like over here you just see it like poking through. Okay. Well, everything's just on back order. Like Amazon, all their dyes are like totally sold out, which makes me think that everyone's doing exactly what I'm doing. So I don't know. Anyway, I think we're good, Maddie. You're right. I will see you guys later. And peace out, Girl Scout.